Amy Klobuchar tried to talk her way out of not knowing who the president of Mexico is. So we discussed this already, but bottom line is, listen, if you don't know the president of Mexico, that's fine. You're not running for president. But she's running for president, and also it was just like last year that this was in the news a lot because he just won. And he's a really, really interesting and charismatic figure. The guy's populist left, and he won the election, and it's this rising tide of populism, except for once it broke in the right direction, the proper direction. It didn't go right wing, it went left wing. So this was a huge story. If she didn't see it, that means she just doesn't follow the news as closely as she should, being a presidential candidate. So here she is trying to get out of being caught stone dead on this. Watch.
Senator Klobuchar, you're running on your Washington experience, but last week in a Telemundo interview, you could not name the president of Mexico or discuss any of his policies. Last night, you defended yourself saying, quote, "This is in jeopardy." But my question to you is, shouldn't our next president know more about one of our largest trading partners?
Of course. Of course. And I don't think that momentary forgetfulness actually reflects what I know about Mexico and how much I care about it. And I first want to say greetings to President López Obrador. Secondly, what I meant by the game of Jeopardy is that I think we could all come up with things. You know, how many members are there in the Israeli Knesset? 120. Who is the president of Honduras? Hernandez. But when it comes to Mexico, I am the one person on this stage that came out first to say I was for the U.S. Mexican-Canadian trade agreement. That is going to be one of the #1 duties of a president.
Senator Klobuchar, my colleague specifically asked you if you could name the president of Mexico, and your response was no.
Yes, that's right. And I said that I made an error. I think having a president that maybe is humble and is able to admit that here and there maybe wouldn't be a bad thing.
Mayor Buttigieg,
if you could let me,
a good response.
If you could,
yeah, look, I wouldn't liken this to trivia. I actually didn't know how many members were in the Knesset, so
well,
you got me there. But you're staking your candidacy on your Washington experience. You're on the committee that oversees border security. You're on the committee that does trade. You're literally in part of the committee that's overseeing these things. And we're not able to speak to literally the first thing about the politics of the country to ourselves.
Are you trying to say that I'm dumb, or are you mocking me here, Pete?
I'm saying that you shouldn't trivialize that
I made an
knowledge.
error. People sometimes forget names.
Amy, you didn't forget it. You just didn't know it. Just totally own it. Don't do I don't like it when it's like she's leaving herself a little bit of wiggle room and trying to be weaselly about it. Like, just be like, you know what, man? I didn't know it, and I should have known it. Full stop. That's it. That's all you got to do. That's it. Now, again, am I going to hold it against you? Yes, I'm going to hold it against you because you're running for president, and it's not, listen, here's the point. It's not like she didn't know the president of Kazakhstan. That's fine. We don't, but Mexico is a ally of ours. They're a trade partner of ours, and they freaking border us, and it was just a big story in the news very recently. So for all those reasons, you're running for president, you gotta know that. But I would have a hell of a, in other words, I wouldn't be covering this story again if she just said, you know what, I didn't know it, I should have known it, now I know it, and I'm studying more and more on it because you do have to know this stuff to be president, and so I apologize for not knowing it, let's move forward. That's all you had to say. But there's always this weird, politicians do this all the time, where it's this weird, I have to try to save face or spin it a little bit. When the funny thing is, you don't. Just own it. I've been wrong about stuff. Just own it. Just come out and be like, I was wrong. I was wrong. You were right. That's really it. What do you want me to tell you? That's it. It's not that hard. But the ego always gets in the way. It's the ego. And by the way, that's the first time, I despise Mayor Pete, but that response, I was like, semi-nailed her on that, didn't he? But she goes on to make a good point after that, too, though. She says about Pete, wait, didn't you just say that we should categorize the drug cartels as terror groups? So, you know what? save me the sanctimony on Mexico issues, because on a big Mexico issue, you were dead wrong and comically wrong. So, she had a point there for sure. But when she says, oh, it's momentary forgetfulness, no, it's not. You just didn't know it. That's obvious. It wasn't like oh, it's right there. I'm blanking on it. Or if she had done that and then said a previous president of Mexico, okay. But no, she was just, no, I don't know. Yeah, I know you don't know. I forgot. You didn't forget. And then, by the way, Elizabeth Warren chimes in to defend Klobuchar, and I think she gave away a little too much there, because low-key, I don't think Elizabeth Warren knew either. We know Tom Steyer didn't know, because he didn't know. They asked him, and he was like, hey. To Mayor Pete's credit, he actually knew, but I don't think Warren knew, because we all know, what's her weakest area? Foreign policy. It's always been. She voted for at least, I think, 2 of Trump's bloated, disgusting, grotesque, criminal military budgets. So her weakness is that, and I wouldn't be surprised if she didn't know it either. So, it was a little bit too much of a defense there. But the funny thing is, man, sometimes she's so transparent that it's funny, the Amy Klobuchar thing, because she's like, there's 120 members of the Israeli Knesset, and, the president of Honduras, Hernandez. It's like, oh my God. I can see the conversation she had with her staffers right in front of our faces right now. The conversation was like, you have to prove that you're actually very knowledgeable, so go out there and drop some other random facts. Here, you could use these. 120 members of the Knesset, go do it. And she's like, oh, good idea. I'll look very competent. Oh, it's hilarious, man. It really is. And then the final point is, the worst possible response is the other thing she went with, which is, hey, when it comes to NAFTA 2.0, I was the first one to sign on to it. Okay, but NAFTA 2.0 is buns. Like we've spoken about it before, it's a giant giveaway to Big Pharma. Meet the new NAFTA, very similar to the old NAFTA. There are marginal improvements, but for as many improvements as there are, there's an equal number of things that are worse. So that's not... Like, she thinks that's like, oh, I'll just let everybody know I'm in favor of the shitty trade deal, and that'll make me look serious. No, it makes you look less serious, and it further verifies the narrative that you're in over your head. Because you're the type of person to not know who the president of Mexico is, and you're also the type of person to sign off on a trade deal that's going to affect thousands and thousands of people. So, no, that's not a good response. The trade deal is terrible, and so is the fact that you didn't know who AMLO is.